classes, I had, try to think, what would a haunted house have in it? What would scare you if you opened a door and you saw something? What would be there, that would frighten you as you open the door? So I'll give you a couple minutes to write down some ideas. On this one, I even had to tell them you're not allowed to leave the house until the end. Because some of the kids immediately started writing, I'm just going to run away. I'm like, no, you're not allowed to leave the house until the end. And don't worry about being fancy. If you want to write it like a third grader would write it, I mean, that's fine. So I'll give you about 30 more seconds and then we'll stop and we'll share what we have so far. Okay, finish up whatever you're writing.
I can keep on going.
I know. I used my teacher voice at a baby shower yesterday, and they're like, "You're talking like a teacher." I'm like, "I can't help it. I can't turn it off." Okay, so Julia, why don't you tell us what you wrote?
Okay. As I open up the door, I see dust on the old, worn-out wooden floor. There are spider webs on the light fixture hanging over my head, and crooked pictures all over the walls. As I go to take my first step into the ancient house, something whizzes past me.
Okay, good. Lindy, what do you have?
Hooks. I see the largest black spider I've ever seen. Its beady eyes are staring back at me. As I step back, it creeps towards me.
Ooh.
I open my mouth to let out a scream, but nothing comes out.
Ooh.
All right, Kaylee.
Mine's no good.
Great.
No, mine's just maybe mine's a third grade level.
I
said I saw a ghost that was holding Homer by an imaginary leash. I tried to get Homer from him, but the ghost kept flying around. It was dragging Homer around everywhere it flew. Finally, I begged and grabbed the leash and ran out with Homer.
And that was another thing I forgot to tell you, which was
Not
my
to
fault.
end it.
It's
Yeah, to
not,
keep it
Homer
there.
was
I
not
felt
allowed
that.
to be, and then that was my
Yeah.
fault. So that was another thing. You couldn't leave the house until the end, and you don't find Homer until the end. So very good.
I started reading there.
No, it's okay. So you open the door and start walking through the house looking for Homer. You notice a room with the door boarded up. You pull aside the rotten boards and push the door open. Creak. It is damp inside and smells like an old shoe. You tiptoe into the dark room, holding your breath so you won't make any noises. From the darkness, a white unicorn appears and looks at you and disappears into the darkness. This is scary. Maybe you should go home, but you can't leave Homer. Maybe the unicorn is a friend and knows where Homer is. Wham! A door slams somewhere in the back of the house. Cobwebs brush over your face. The same voice says, "Go down to the cellar." For Homer's sake, you decide to listen to the voice and head toward the cellar. It's creepy going down into the cellar. A bat swoops low, rats scurry about, a river runs through the cellar. There's a blue boat tied to a metal ring in the wall. You decide to walk along the bank instead of getting into the boat. At least you can walk wherever you want. The bank of the river is muddy. Two red eyes stare out at you from the water. Snap! It's a blank. So fill in the blank what it could be. It could be a real life something that you know that exists in the real world, or it can be something made up. So just come up with some kind of creature that would snap at you with beady eye, red eyes. So what did you put, Lindy?
I said a two-headed monster.
Two-headed monster, good. What do you have?
An alligator.
Alligator,
Oh,
good.
an alligator.
A lot of kids choose alligator. That's okay.
It has red eyes.
Yeah, I was like, it has to be haunted or something.
It crawls towards you and snaps again. It catches you by the shirt, and your shirt rips. You try to get away, but it grabs you by your shoe. It pulls you under the water. After a struggle, you manage to get away by blank. So write something quickly about how you would manage to get away from your creature or animal. Okay, what did you put?
After struggle, you managed to get away by grabbing a chain and pulling myself out of the water, leaving my shoe behind.
Okay, good. Julia?
Pulling a magical pin out of my left pocket. As I click the pin, it turns into a sword.
Okay, good. All right, Lindy?
After a struggle, you manage to get away by bonking the two-headed monster on one of its noses and darting back to shore.
Okay, good. Okay.
Clearly it has two noses because it's a two-headed monster.
A path on the riverbank leads outside. You are free. Homer is there. He licks your face. All of a sudden, Homer starts talking and tells you the most frightening tale you have ever heard. According to Homer, he can talk now because a unicorn gave him magical powers. Homer tells you that after he chased the white cat blank. So real quick, write down something that happened to Homer after he chased the white cat. You know, he disappeared. What would be something that happened to him? This would also be an activity that you could use after a mentor text, maybe, you know, after reading a scary story or, you know, a Halloween type story. Depending on which type of story you use or genre that you choose, you could type something up really quick. Like I said, or just use the book and have them stop and write down something. Okay, we've got one more minute. What did you write, Caleb?
He got trapped inside the, well, after he chased the white cat, he got trapped inside the house. A ghost chased him into the basement where he got attacked by an angry alligator. While he was fighting the alligator, a unicorn saved him and gave him magical powers.
Okay, cool.
Very good. Julia?
After he chased the white cat, he followed the cat into a closet that led into the land of unicorns. They granted him one wish to be able to speak to his owner.
All right, very good. Wendy?
After he chased the white cat, he found himself stranded in the backyard of a creepy house. He began to panic when he couldn't find a way out. All of a sudden, the magical unicorn appeared. The unicorn couldn't understand Homer's barks, so she gave him the ability to talk.
Very good. Okay, so last one. Remember the beginning of the story, the child, and it could be a boy or a girl, you could, let the students decide, was going home for lunch. So after hearing Homer's story, you will never go back to this old house as long as you live. Not on your life. The two of you rush home where you find that your mom has made your favorite meal, blank, for lunch. Life is good again. So I tell them, even if your mom has never cooked this food for you at home, write your favorite food down. Even if you have to go to a restaurant, we're making believe that your mom knows how to make it, or your dad, or your grandma, or whoever you live with, write down something that you love to eat, and it's there at home because now your life is good all over again. You're out of the house. Of course, most of the kids have written pizza. Everybody, pizza, pizza. I'm like, okay. Their palates aren't that wrong yet. All right, Lindy, what did you write?
Chicken fajita tacos.
Very good. I always want to call you Shaylin. I know that's your sister. Kaylin. I know you're Kaylin. I can't think of my head.
Chicken Alfredo.
Chicken Alfredo, good, right? Julie?
Olive Garden spaghetti.
Olive Garden spaghetti. Okay, so very good. I'm surprised you didn't pick sushi.
I know, I do love sushi.
Yes. I know she was craving it when she was pregnant.
Yes, I did crave sushi the whole time.
Okay, so I was going to do another activity, but I know you'll have to get back in a little bit, so I'm going to just show you what the last one is. It's called Telltales, and I actually bought 2 of these. It can be used in multiple ways. So with my low students, let me show you an example of one of the baggies that I was going to use. So each card, and you can use these with pictures. I have a set of, years ago, the San Antonio Light put out a big file of like real photos that they had taken over the years for the newspaper, so they were actually photographs. And so I've used those where I give the students a picture and they have to write about what they think is going on in that picture. Like one of them shows an alligator in a trunk of a car sticking out. So you can use real life photos. You can use pictures from a book that you're going to read, or you can, there's multiple options on the internet. I bought these 2 games, and they're both called Telltales. One's a fairy tale version, and one's just a regular version. So each card has 2 sides. Like this one has a ghost, and this one has, a man running, a spooky house, and then, of course, like an urban city. I guess this is a fairy. It looks a little bit creepy, and then a couple holding hands, a set of false teeth, and a treasure box. And so what we started off with my really low groups is I gave them 1 card. And they had to tell me something. They had to pick a side and then just orally respond with what was going on in that card. And then what you can do is give them a couple of cards, and what I did was I gave them a sheet of notebook paper. I started it off and I wrote down, I took some cards and I wrote a sentence to start it off, and then I passed it to the next person at the table, and they chose a side of any card they had, and they wrote something that they could tie into my sentence. And then we just did like around the table, and we created a story that way. The other option is you can do it as a group, like that, with a partner, or again, you can do it individually. You can give them the directions, have multiple options in the directions too as well. So it can be adapted as a center or whatever you're teaching. I pulled some Halloween themed ones because I was hoping we'd have time to get to this, but I know that we probably won't, and it'll take a while for you to jot down ideas for these. But the kids love it. They'll come to me and they'll say, "Are we going to do the cards today?" And I'm like, "No, we're not doing the cards today." So it's a good way for them to get some creativity and to write down some ideas. The main thing is I told them it has to tie into the sentence before. So if you're gonna go off in a different direction with that card, you need to make sure you explain how you are going off from that other card. You can't just write, there was a fairy and then all of a sudden I'm in the city today. You can't do that. You have to explain how you got to the city. Did the fairy tap you with her magic wand and all of a sudden you ended up in the city? So these are good ideas to get the kids talking and thinking about things that they can write down. And they enjoy it, they've enjoyed it so far. Any questions? That's my last slide. I did give you a bibliography there. It does have the links to some of the videos on it, and some of the articles that I used for the PowerPoint. Are there any questions or anything that you think that you could use or adjust? Like if you have any ideas that you think I could adjust for your grade level, because I haven't taught third grade in like, a million years. So, except for my little groups that I have now. So what are some ideas that you think would work well in your class, like right now, if you had to go back and use one of the lessons in your class?
Well, first, quick question. With the cards that you just showed us, did you only put one card out, or did you like put a bunch out?
So at the beginning, I just gave them one card.
Okay.
I gave them one card to start off with, and then they had to choose the side. And then we kind of progressed. It too, it depends on the level of my students, because
Right.
I see like a wide, even with the strugglers, I see a wide range of ability. So some of them I gave up to 4 cards.
Okay.
And then I never, the little box suggested like 7. And I'm like, that's a lot of choice. So I would start off small. And then once they kind of get the idea of it, you could even give them one card and then use that as their story prompt, and they have to write based on something that's going on in the card.
Okay.
Some of the cards have a setting in it, and then some have the characters. So you could even go through it and give them one that has a setting, a character, or something where they kind of have to incorporate them by, you're kind of forcing them into doing that in a way.
I pictured using the telltales, showing them like projecting one card to my class and giving them a paper that I already started the first sentence and having them in groups of 4, and they go off of that one card.
Right.
But then that one group presents it, and it shows the different directions that they went.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because then it's like an introduction to it, but it's everybody doing it on one story.
Right, that's a good way. And that's I would start off small, because especially with the younger ones, if you give them too many choices, they get overwhelmed, and then they just stop. Unless they're just naturally good writers and they have, your GT kids may be able to take it and run with it, but your lower kids are going to struggle with it. Any questions or any comments or?
I'm really big into the mentor text right now. I'm trying to navigate through that. And we obviously use it in our books. We use the stories as our mentor text. I'm having trouble teaching grammar. Grammar in isolation is not working. They're not using those skills I'm teaching them in their writing. So one thing that I want to start doing is trying the mentor sentences from the mentor text. So maybe that's something you can help me on, because we're trying.
And I think I don't know if it's one of the videos I included, there was comments on using mentor text for the grammar. Because if you teach the grammar in isolation, they just don't know how to apply it. They see the rule and they see the sentence, and then when they go to look at it in any other context, they lose it.
Right.
So that is another way to use it in the grammar, is to show a book that does use, really good quotes, quotation marks, or uses the adjectives, and the kids have to point out the adjectives in the sentence. So I'll look on some stuff for you, and I can see if I can find something.
Awesome.
Anything else? No? Thank you so much for being
Good.
here.
Thank
for you.
you.
Thank you very much.